Hey, what's up? What's up? It's your girl Erica, and welcome to my YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in and thanks for subscribing. I hope you had a great weekend. Happy Easter Monday. I hope your new week has gotten off to a great start because I am here to do the Real Housewives of Atlanta review. Of course, it's season 16, and this was episode 7, and it was entitled Nashville Hold'em. Now, this was a great episode, guys. Last week, if you watched my review, I wasn't really that enthused about it, but this one was a really, really good episode. So I even took notes on this one because there was a lot of content, there was a lot of meat, there was a lot going on as they prepared to go on their Nashville trip. So let's get into it. The opening scene was actually, it was kind of like 3 scenes, but they kind of flipped back and forth between them. Of course, there was Britt and her husband. They were at the car dealership, not interested in that. They also showed Kelly was hosting Cynthia, Porsha, and Shamia at her house for lunch. And then Drew went over to Angela's house for lunch or just for a little chit chat. They were actually sitting by the pool. So their conversations were actually pretty good. I guess you would say like Brittany was talking to her husband. Of course, she continued the conversation about Angela, and now Brittany's sort of like exposing Angela and basically saying that Angela is so busy worried about her license, but then it's been alleged that her husband had a baby on her, so she needs to focus on that. Like I said, Britt, not really interested in her at all. But of course, she's part of the group, so of course we're going to get her commentary or we're going to get scenes with her, but whatever the case may be. Of course, Kelly, Porsha, and Cynthia, they were over at, like I said, they were over at Kelly's house. Shamia, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say Kelly, but Shamia. So they were over at Kelly's house, and Porsha was kind of talking about she wanted to have a trip to Nashville. Of course, Cynthia asked Porsha, has she spoken with Drew? And Porsha is really dragging this thing out. If you go back to my previous reviews, one of the things that I said was that I felt like Porsha's so frustrated about what she's going through with Simon, and she's going to use Drew as her punching bag. And we see that's what's going on. Regardless of what their friendship was or what it no longer is, Porsha is really dragging out this whole little drama and this whole little beef with Drew. So, like even Cynthia said in her confessional, she said Porsha tries to act like she doesn't care, but she really does. And we can see that. It's like, okay, Porsha, you keep talking about Drew. The whole thing, we've seen Drew in the studio with Dennis. We know what she's trying to accomplish. So kind of like, girl, like, let it go. If Drew and Dennis are really fooling around, or if there is something more to it, it will definitely come out. And we don't have to keep talking about this every week, but Porsha wants to keep harping on it. So that's what it is. So Angela went to, of course, Drew went to Angela's house. They were talking, and Angela was joking around about Drew. She said, look, I called Marcus Jordan, and Marcus Jordan said that you guys are not cousins. And Drew said, oh, I was just playing anyway. And they just had like a little, playful conversation about that. And then Drew told Angela that she was going to go and meet with Britt. And then, of course, Angela told Drew about Porsha's trip. And, of course, Angela was like, look, I really need you to go. You're my Chi-Town sister. I need you to go. And Drew was just kind of like at the place where she wasn't really sure if she wanted to go because she also has a court date that was coming up with Ralph within the week. So we'll see more about that. Or we'll talk more about that later. But, yeah, so Drew was kind of talking about that whole situation and how she's just really tired of this whole divorce thing being dragged out. And I'm sure that is a lot for any woman, when you're going through that, when you're, going through a long divorce and you can't seem to reach a settlement or you can't seem to reach any type of agreement. So those first few scenes, they were really, 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 really good. So we move on and let's see. Porsha told, this is what I wanted to really talk about, and you guys tell me what you think about it. Porsha mentioned that she was going to invite some of her other friends that included Mayetta, that included some other ladies. Of course, we've seen these ladies around town. If you kind of follow any of, the Real Housewives of Atlanta or a lot of the reality stars that live in Atlanta, we tend to see the same girls. And I'm trying to figure out, is Mayetta everyone's best friend? Like, Mayetta is that girl that everyone says, this is my best friend, or this is my close friend, and she's always around. Along with some of these other girls, I have seen their faces before. I'm not familiar with them, but I've seen their faces before, and it's like, okay, like, I'm just trying to figure out, like, do these women meet any other women, or do they all just hang together? So it's like a group of, what, 25 or 30 of these women, and they all say they're best friends. Like, we're over 40. Like, you know, when you're in your 20s, or when you're in your teens and 20s, you tend to have a bigger crew that you hang with. But as you get older, your circle becomes really, really small. So and it doesn't even mean, because you could be the friendliest person in the world, but you're not going to have 5 and 10 best friends. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, is there something going on? Is there some type of little sorority in Atlanta that we don't know about? I mean, Alpha Side, Peach, or what's going on? Like, why are all of these girls hanging with the same girls that hang with Porsha? They hang with Candy, they hang with Rashida from Love and Hip Hop Atlanta, they hang with Toya Johnson, Lil Wayne's ex-wife. They hang, it's like, it's just a huge group of them. I think Ludacris's wife sometimes hangs with them. It's a large group of them, and it's like, oh my God, all of these women share the same best friends. I think I even see Quad with them a lot. Like, I'm not saying that the friendship is not genuine, but it's just weird to me that they all have the same best friends. But just tell me what you think about that, guys, because I just thought that was kind of weird to me. It may not be anything, but I just thought it was a little weird. But anyway, we'll go on. So Drew and Britt meet up. That was like a cute little scene, because I had no idea that Drew was going to ask the hard questions. So Drew and Britt, they sit down, and immediately they order their lemon drop martinis. And of course, they both say, that's my drink. Brittany says she does it with vodka. Drew says she does it with tequila. But anyway, they started talking. So Drew just came out the blue. She was like, okay, have you ever sold the cat? And Britt was kind of taken aback. She was like stumbling over her words and stuttering, and she couldn't get her words together. And I think Drew kind of caught her off guard, and it was like, good, Drew. Because those are the questions that we want to know. Britt, okay, we know that Kenya exposed this picture of you with, a Tom, Dick, and Harry, in this picture. And then now Drew wants to ask the hard questions, because Britt has made it clear that Drew and Angela were on Kenya's side. So, okay, with that being said, Drew asked her, okay, have you ever sold the cat? Well, we never got a straight answer. The only thing Britt said was that, oh yeah, my friends and I, we did some things when we were young, and we put ourselves online, and we were just like, I can't remember what it was, the site that they were on, but basically they were doing something, I guess what you would call somewhat inappropriate at that time. So, but Britt didn't really give her anything. So Britt was, of course, giving her the sob story, and just basically saying, like, she's being judged for something she did when she was a young girl, and she was kind of laying it on thick with Drew. And Drew even said, she said, look, I'll give Britt a chance. Like, I've been ridiculed in this group. I know what it feels like to be, under a microscope and stuff like that. So I will, kind of like give her a chance. And, that's typical Drew. I mean, Drew doesn't try to judge the girls too much. She may not agree with them, but you don't see Drew being one of the super duper judgy ones. I think the only one she was like that with was Sanya in her first season, but that was about it. And that was just like a quick little run-in or whatever. But Drew normally isn't judgmental. So we'll see. I don't think it's going to last long, because now Britt has joined Alpha Side Peach, and her and Porsha are now BFFs. If you've seen social media, they're all over social media together, dancing and laughing and drinking and having a good time and holding hands, and now they're best friends. So even when Britt was on Watch What Happens Live, she said Drew needs to go. Because she doesn't like Drew. It has nothing to do with Drew. It's not giving us anything. Really, we're not getting anything from Britt. But Drew, of course, Britt was going to say that because of the relationship that she now has with Porsha. And this is another thing I was looking at, guys. Does Britt remind you of like a broken or broke Marlo? Like, I was looking at Britt a lot this episode, and I was just like, she gives me a Marlo vibe, but just, I don't want to say a poor Marlo, but she gives me a Marlo vibe, but at the same time, it's kind of like a knockoff version. You know how they have like the knockoff purses, like you have the real original purse, and then you have the knockoff version. Britt is giving me like a knockoff version of Marlo. Tell me what you think about that, because that's what I kind of see in Britt. But anyway, and don't get me wrong, because I really didn't have a problem with Marlo. I really like Marlo as a friend of the Housewives. And to be honest, I would have loved to have seen Marlo come back. I know she had a couple of bad seasons when she became a peach holder, but I did kind of think Marlo did fit in with that whole Real Housewives of Atlanta scene. But let me know what you think about that, guys, because I do see her as like a knockoff version, Britt as a knockoff version of Marlo. But anyway, we'll go on. Let me go on. So anyway, Drew goes to court. Like I said, I have a whole lot of notes here, guys, and I don't want to miss anything. So Drew goes to court. And we see, you know, her and Ralph, of course, they go separately. Drew was talking to her attorney. Her attorney says that now Ralph has his third attorney. And this black woman who is now his lawyer says, oh, you know, it's a money grab. It's a money grab. She, you know, she was referring to Drew and I guess the agreement that Drew wanted. And I'm thinking to myself, even as a black woman, you're an attorney. I know that's your job, but how is it a money grab when Ralph hasn't even turned over his financial information to the courts or to the attorney so that they can sort of reach an agreement? And, you know, whatever happened during the whole, you know, mediation or arbitration or that court hearing, apparently, everything was ruled in Ralph's favor. So Ralph is able to continue to stay in the basement. And here he comes outside. I don't have to leave. I can stay in the basement. I don't have to leave. Let me take a sip of water on that. Y'all, why are we on episode 7? Why do we still have to see Ralph? Like, to me, I'm just a person, like, I'm sick of Ralph. I'm tired of Ralph. I had enough of Ralph and all of his ways throughout these seasons. And now we have to watch him get a full body confessional and he still gets to stay in the house. That's torture for anyone. Like, they need to come to an agreement. It's like he's prolonging this divorce. And one of the things that I didn't like that he said in his confessional, he said, oh, you know what, a lot of people don't realize, there's a misconception or there's a misconceived notion that I didn't care about my wife. Ralph, obviously you don't care about your wife. If you cared about your wife, you would give up your financial information. You would try to reach a settlement so that both of you can heal and go on and move on with your life. You're dragging your children through this long process of a divorce. You want to hold up her life. You're really going to do what you want to do, but you want to hold up Drew's life, but yet and still you want to sit in your confessional and say there's a misconception that you didn't care about her. I know that everybody's definition of caring is a little different, but from what we can see, Ralph, you don't care about her at all. You never did. And if you did, like I said, you would make a wise decision and you would try to reach a settlement so that you and Drew can heal and go on with your lives and try to make it as good as you possibly can for your children and raise your children to the best of your abilities in separate households. You know, I come from divorced parents. I made it. I'm sure a lot of you out there, you had to go to your parents' house or your parents weren't together. You made it, and their kids will make it. So Ralph does not have to be there, but to me, he wants the spotlight. He wants to be on television. And more importantly, he wants to make Drew's life miserable. A lot of people don't like Drew, so they really don't care. Oh, she's lying and this, that, and the other. Ralph is everything that Drew said he was. I said that in my last review. He is everything that Drew said he was. And if you don't like Drew, you need to put your feelings to the side and just look at it from the perspective of how would you feel if that was one of your family members being dragged through that, because it's ridiculous at this point. And I'm sick and tired of Ralph. So Anyway, Porsha and the girls leave for Nashville. Angela, something happened where she actually excuse me, I think she said that she her bag broke and she just had a horrible morning and she was running behind. So she didn't fly with the other ladies, but Porsha, Shamia, Kelly, Britt, and Cynthia, they left. Those 5 girls went on and they left. So they headed to Nashville. One of the things I said, Nashville, now they had a really, really nice home for them. We know that now the Real Housewives franchises, they normally have like a domestic trip within the United States. But I'm noticing that they're starting to go to the same places. Okay, just a couple of seasons ago, New Jersey, their cast went to Nashville, and now Porsha and the Real Housewives of Atlanta ladies are going to Nashville. So it's kind of like we're starting to see the same cities over and over and over again. We're starting to see the same activities over and over and over again, because that's exactly what happened. Like they went bull riding, they rode the mechanic bull, you know, they eat the hot chicken. It's almost like the same thing, you know, going on. So what's up with that? I think they need to do something different, you know, but of course, you know, what can we say? You know, this is what it is at this point. So anyway, they get there, they're talking about their different plastic surgeries while they were, you know, pulling up to the home. Again, like I said, it was a really, really nice rental that they had. Very, very nice home. Porsha got a really nice room in the house. Shamia also got a nice room. The other ladies, I didn't really care for the setup of the rooms because they had to share rooms. I don't know if the rooms at that house only had maybe like 5 bedrooms or whatever the case may be, but I didn't like the setup for the other ladies. I thought it would have been nice if each woman or each lady had their own room. I could see if maybe 2 of the ladies shared a room, but I think Cynthia, Kelly, and Britt had to actually share a room. Drew was going to get a room. If Drew were to come, she was going to get a room with the twin beds. Porsha even tried to give that room to Kelly, and Kelly was like, Porsha P, no, it ain't working. It ain't going down like that. But then Angela, she got a decent room, but like I said, for it to be a really, really nice house, I was surprised how the bedrooms were actually set up in that house. So anyway, so the girls, they sat down to have lunch and they were just talking and they were saying how they liked the girls' trips. But then I think Cynthia or one of them said, you know, sometimes, I think what Cynthia said, that sometimes the girls' trips can be a little problematic. And, you know, Porsha said, yeah, that's true, because you really don't know what you're going to get. They can be cool, and then when they get on the trip, you see something else. So then Britt was saying, well, I would rather know, you know, who this person is, because I don't like when people are fake or they pretend to be one way and then they're not. And so then Britt brought up, of course, she brought up Angela, and she was saying how Angela was texting her and trying to be cool with her, but then on the flip side, she was sort of being fake. So then Angela arrives, and Angela arrives while they're talking about her. And you know when you go in a room where you know that something is being said about you. So Angela had that feeling. But Angela Oakley is showing up and showing out. Kelly and Angela are very good additions to this Real Housewives of Atlanta cast, because they have given us personal story and they're also showing up. And one of the things that I said, I just smirked when I was watching Angela. Angela is not moving like a rookie housewife. She is moving like a seasoned housewife. She's being messy, but she knows how to like drop a bomb, and she knows how to like ease things into the conversation, and she knows how to move and slide and get the girls all riled up without even breaking a sweat. That is exactly what she's doing. So as soon as she sat down, you know, they were talking. And she said, you know, I know this trip is all about, you know, of course, us just trying to get back on the right track after everything that happened. So Porsha, Drew is going to come on the trip. So, of course, Porsha was tight-lipped, but Porsha couldn't say anything. So Angela said, well, when we talked, you didn't say that Drew couldn't come at all. If you didn't want Drew to come at all, you should have said, no, she cannot come. But you left that door open. And Angela is 100% right. Whether you think it was right for her to bring Drew or not, or to invite Drew or not, Angela was right, because Porsha should have told Angela, no, Porsha cannot come. I mean, I'm sorry, no, Drew cannot come. That's what Porsha should have told her. Now, if Angela decided to invite Drew despite what Porsha said, then I think, yeah, that would have been an issue. But that's not the issue. Porsha left it open, and so Porsha left the door cracked open. Angela said, okay, I'm gonna kick it down. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So of course the girls were kind of riled up. Well, no, that's not right, Angela. And Angela was like, okay, well, what is this trip about? I thought we were trying to come together. I thought we were trying to sort of get on the right track. Porsha was afraid. She was riled up. And see, Porsha really wants to lash out at somebody, but she knows that she has a very, very, very bad track record. So she has to be very careful, and she has to sort of walk on glass with this, because if Porsha has any more outbursts, or Porsha really, really flicks off the way she has in the past, she's done. And she knows that no one else is going to take that from her. Production's not going to take it. I don't think the network will take it, and the girls are not going to deal with Porsha if she has another outbreak. But Porsha is right there on the brink of either having a meltdown or going completely off. And Angela is like, click, click, click. Angela has that little lighter, and Angela has lit that flame. That flame has been lit, and Angela's just gonna watch it burn. Trust and believe. So of course the girls, they get ready. So Porsha said, we're going to go out, we're going to do the mechanical bull run. And like I said, we've seen that before on the Housewives. So the girls, they go and get glammed up, they get dressed. We see Kelly with her stylist, and Britt, everyone's has on their little Nashville gear, or as Porsha said, the little Beyonce vibe from Cowboy Carter. They all go out. Of course, Porsha's other friends, they arrive on the scene. Porsha's drinking. So, Porsha's no longer Porsha. She's now Peach Juice, and she's ready to have a great time. And so the girls arrive, and now Porsha has some, she's drinking her liquid courage. And so, conversations are sort of going at the table. After they ride the mechanical bull, Shamia rode it for 51 seconds. Kelly was a close second at 49 seconds. So the rest of the girls kind of fell off very early. So they say mechanical bulls. I've never tried to get on one, but they say that they are pretty hard to ride. I don't know, it probably takes a lot of leg strength or whatever, but they're pretty hard to ride. And then you probably have to be relaxed too. But yeah, they did that, and then so they decided to get some drinks and some food. So the girls were sitting at the table. So of course Lauren, Portia's sister Lauren was there. We saw Mayetta at the table, and we saw the other ladies. So when they sit down, Mayetta asks about Drew. And of course, Mayetta and Drew have a pretty good relationship. Again, like I said, Mayetta is so close to all of these girls. It is very difficult, because it's like she has like 10 best friends. Like, they all love Mayetta. So, of course, because Mayetta and Drew are pretty cool, Mayetta asks about Drew. Then Porsha tried to go through this whole story about Drew was doing some underhanded stuff. She's fake, and she's phony, and she's this. So Angela was like, no, we're not going to sit at this table, and talk about one girl. We're not going to do that. So Porsha was like, Porsha drinking her liquid courage, and she has her backup crew, like I said, Alpha Side Peach is there. So she said, oh, no, I mean, it's something, she said something about about her wig glue, and she said, I'm going to address you, you need to act your age, and I'm going to address you at the age that you are, and this, that, and the other. Porsha was saying a lot of things. Porsha never had that energy for Angela when they were sitting at the table earlier. She could have had that same information. I mean, she could have that same, vigor and that same attitude toward Angela when they first sat down and they were at the house. But now that she has her crew with her, now that she has a little liquid courage, she wants to blame it on the alcohol, and now she wants to go at Angela. But Angela said she's not sweating that. Angela said, girl, I wear a size 12 shoe. I can stand on my own 2 feet. And Angela was like, I'm not going for it. Bottom line, Drew is coming. That's my girl, because Angela did call Drew before they actually left. When Angela went to her bedroom, she called Drew, and Drew was like, well, I may try to come. I do need to get away. Drew did tell her she was in a bad spot because of what happened at the court case, but that she would try to make the trip. And then we also saw Drew out. Of course, production set it up. Drew was out at Crew, which is Dennis's hookah lounge, and they were talking about, they were celebrating like the fact that she got a deal with a record label. I think it's called the Connect record label. They had actually got the deal. And then Dennis called, and he was like, he sent her a bottle or something like that, and they were actually celebrating. And she was like, oh, you know, thanks, bro, and I appreciate your help and all this other stuff. So Drew and her sister Allison were out at Crew, while the other girls were at the table in Nashville talking about Drew. So of course, Porsha, again, like I said, she wants Drew to be her punching bag this season. So she's letting them know like Drew is not trustworthy and this, that, and the other. And Lauren was kind of co-signing some things. And then someone at the table had a nerve to say, well, Drew was doing exactly what Britt was doing in the photo. And so Porsha was looking like, what? Like, you know, almost like a who said that or who told you that kind of moment. But then at the same time, I think it was like a setup. There's more to come. That was the end of the episode. There's more to come. But again, if Drew and Dennis have done anything again, what do they always say? It'll come out in the wash. We're not even worried about it. If they are really doing something underhanded or something inappropriate, again, it will be exposed. But if it's just like a little white lie, if it's something that just the girl decided to say because she's just kissing up to Porsha, then I'm not here for that, because I don't want to hear any fake rumors. We've had enough with these fake rumors over the years, and then they last for a whole season and then they go into another season. We're over that. If it's true, show us the receipts or give us the receipts. And if it ain't true, then shut up about it and let's not talk about that. So again, we can see in the previews that Porsha and Drew are going to be sort of like getting into it, and Drew says she wants to lead the trip. But that was the end of the episode, guys. I hope you enjoyed my review, and I hope you enjoyed the show. If you haven't seen the show, check it out, because it was really, 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 really good. But anyway, that is the end of my review. Please like this video, and of course subscribe to my channel. Like I said, I have been reviewing the season. If you haven't seen all of my reviews, go back and look at my reviews, because I've been talking about Porsha's attitude and some things that have been going on from the actual first episode, and now I'm starting to see like what's really going on. So as you can see, like what I said in the beginning, we're starting to see that happen. So check that out if you haven't seen it. Enjoy your day. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you the next time. Bye.